Hello and welcome to the channel. So we've got a Marshall Origin 50 in for repair. This one's being used by the customer on a gig and it suddenly went quiet. Lights are on but no one's at home. So we're going to check the fuses and things. We're going to run it up on the current limiter, and if we can't find anything obvious, then we'll get it out of the chassis and have a look. Right, I've moved this amp onto the bench, took it out of the chassis because all the fuses are internal on this one, except for the mains fuse on there. So this fuse is blown. I've just replaced it. It's a 600 milliamp. I've just replaced it with a 500 milliamp. So one of these tubes is all over. And you know, this is becoming a common problem. Any idea which one it is? Which you'd like to guess? I think we know which one it is, don't we? Judging by the colour of the paint. So one of the problems in the UK that we have when we're travelling to gigs is potholes. You can't believe the state of our roads here. If you live in the UK, then you know what the state of the roads are. I lost a tube in an amp that I use for gigging, EL34. These are the worst ones as well. These, the big octal tubes. It just seems to be becoming more and more of a common problem. You know, these amps just get absolutely shaken to bits on the roads. So it's no surprise really that you're starting to see this more and more. Obviously I don't video every amp that I repair on the channel, if they just quick repairs sometimes when he shoves some tubes in, but I thought we'd take a look at this one because it's quite a modern amp, and a lot of people have got these, and this is still a current model. So let's stick this tube in the old tester and see what the tester says. Probably will say it's okay because it won't be able to get enough current on it, and obviously the tube did run okay while it was on the current limiter. Hello. Cheers, Bob. Yeah, thank you mate, take care. So that's a bit of a package that I've been waiting for. That was the postman at the door there. We've been waiting for this package, and my dog Shaft's also been waiting for this package because I knew it was being delivered, and he's waiting to go out for his daily run around. So that's what we'll be doing next, and we're going to have to leave off this amp because he's been telling me now since 9 o'clock, and it's now 20 past 12, that he wants to go out for a run. So I'm just opening this box. Now, I've been watching quite a few videos on Shango 066's channel, and I find Shango incredibly funny. And I sit watching him mending televisions, and I really, he loses me. And funny enough, I used to work on televisions years ago with a service engineer, but I don't remember any of it. But he repairs all their vintage televisions, and it's quite entertaining. But while I was watching that, he got sent this to try. Just bring the camera back, you can see it there. And this is like a small oscilloscope, and it's a multimeter. It does various things, and he was quite impressed with it, so I thought I'll order one of those for the channel, and we'll look at that later. I'm digressing. Let's just switch it off because it's bleeping at me now vehemently. So it looks back to where we was testing this tube then. let's have a look at this tube. So it's 7E1 on these and test is 8. I bet that from memory. Not showing any shorts or leakage. Let's bring that down so you can see it. So you can see it's going up on the meter. Okay, we expected that really. There's no shorts on it. It's so as such not at that voltage. So it's only when it gets to a higher voltage. So I'm guessing that tube's blown, and I'm not going to put it back in again for the risk of damaging the amp, even though I've got the smaller fuse in. I mean, no, it always blows the fuse, but I'm just not going to take that risk. So we need a new set of tubes for this amp. So we need a set of tubes for this amp, but first we're going to put some old tube. I want to put an old tube in with that one, and we're going to just check everything and make sure it's right before we put any new tubes in this amp. Right, I've tested the other tube, got it in the tester, and if we look, if I just put my hand around there, you should be able to see a side. That's showing a leak on there, so that tube's tainted as well. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if that tube isn't the one that's causing the problems. So we're not going to put him. I'm not going to bother testing to see whether it is. I'm not putting him back in either. And so I'm just going to get a cut that I've just been and fetched a tube to test with that before we put the new tubes in. And then I thought I'm going to test that tube first and make sure, and it's a good job I did, because that's got shorts inside it, so it wouldn't surprise me. Probably this one's just been baked and it's probably okay, but I'm not going to put neither of those back in there. Right, so we've got a pair of tubes in it. Let's get the current limiter on it. Hit it, yeah, we've got the current limiter on. And let's switch on. We're on the high setting on the amp. Oops, of course I've just realised I've unplugged it. Plug the mains. Let's plug it back in. There we go. Right. So we'll see what happens now. That's come up. Now I'm just going to turn off one of the lights. Wrong one. That one. In fact, I'm going to turn them both off. So I just want to check when I take this current limiter off that we don't see any red plating, and I can't see it with those lights because they're so bright. So we're drawing 270 milliamps now, 280 milliamps on the current limiter. So I'm just going to flick off the current limiter. I'm just watching the current meter. Now it's drawing 390 milliamps. It's gone up to 400. So that's looking okay. I'm just going to flick this power switch. And actually we did a video on an Origin 20 demonstrating how this what works. And obviously there is some pitfalls with that, as it throws off the effective load resistance massively on the output tubes. But no one seems to bother about that much these days. even though it's clearly on the data sheets. So let's go down to low. So the reason I'm doing that is that obviously each time you increase that, it throws more current at the tubes. So we're just making sure that if there is any faults in this amp, that they're going to show. So everything's looking good there. So it looks like a severe case of just the tubes of a bit of what I now call pothole boogie. And it's probably hard for people in some countries to understand just how bad the potholes are here. So for example, a lady couple of 3 years ago, a lady bringing a young child for a guitar lesson. She's coming down the main road, hits a pothole, snaps the wheel off. That's just how bad it's getting now, and it's happening more and more often. And obviously these tube amps are, people are putting them in the back of the cars, and suddenly and it's not just like the occasional pothole. We've got roads which are no more than a mile from where I live, and one of the main A roads is riddled with potholes, absolutely riddled. It's not far off like driving up a farm lane. It's shocking. So these amps don't fare very well, if they're just getting battered around like that. So if you are driving around in the UK and you've got your tube amp, valve amp in the back of the car, either put it on the seats or put some foam underneath it. That's all looking good. So at a glance, we don't appear to have any faults on the amp, but we've got it running now on this pair of test tubes. So what I'm going to do is, let's put the lights back on now, because I think we're pretty safe, aren't we? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over, and while these tubes are in it, I'm going to reduce the bias so it's as cool as we can get it for when we put the new tubes in, and then we'll bring the bias up on the oscilloscope to the point where we lose the crossover distortion. I must say, these transformers look a mite more beefier than they did on the 20 watt version, and the 20 watt version still got the EL34s in, and they run those tubes, and these transformers are on fire on the 20. This one seems pretty good. It's pretty cold. So that one's not bad, but the 20 watt ones, you could have fried your breakfast on the power transformer. Really, and that's the problem, as we pointed out in that video with the Origin 20. They really should, that shouldn't have EL34s, and if you're going to use small transformers like that, you really should have 6V6s in it. But yeah, that doesn't seem to be getting hot, and everything seems good now. My word, those preamp tubes are warm. By God, they must be getting some voltage. They're glowing. Yep, so that's all looking good. So I think we'll turn it over now. We'll reduce the bias till it's cold, and then we'll get the new tubes in and gently bring this up. Right, I've got this amp turned upside down again, and we're just going to check the bias with these test tubes in. We're just going to reduce the bias, turn it down cool, and then we're going to put some new tubes in this amp. It all seems to be running absolutely fine now. got about 520 milliamps. Let me just turn this light out for a second because it's shit drawing. 400 milliamps we're drawing. Right. And we've got negative 38. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to increase the grid voltage on the negative bias on the grid. Need to go the other way then, do we? Yeah, that's it. So now we've got negative 53 on there. So now we're going to switch off. We're going to let those tubes cool down, and then I'm going to pull them, and then I'm going to put a new set of tubes in this, and then we're going to put it on the scope, and we're going to bias this amp on the scope. Right, we've got this up on the scope. Just having a look on the high setting there. Oh, got lots of crossover distortion there, but then I have turned the bias down at its coldest point. There, drawing 460 milliamps. .84 volts peak to peak. We're not getting any more out of that now. Yep, so we're getting about 81, 82 volts peak to peak there at the moment. We've got a lot of crossover distortion, which we now need to lose. Just start turning up the bias. There we go, we just need to come down again now because we're getting a more. That looks like centre tap. There. So we've got quite a bit of crossover distortion. Right, I just did a quick bias check there as we're turning it up. We're only at 3.7 watts, so we've got loads to go up yet. You can see there you can see because obviously the gain's beginning to increase as we turn up the bias. So if we just clean, so you can see where we are now, and I'm just going to put the master up to number 10 and then work off this here, off this first volume, off the preamp volume. Now that looks pretty good. So let's just check the bias now. Now there is a bit of a discrepancy on this output transformer. The impedance on the left side is 75.8. The impedance on the right is 61. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy there. which will probably, because these tubes are pretty well matched. But we will see. 17.2. I would call that on the money there. So now we've got that at, let's just check the other side. 17.6, so they are pretty well matched. So 17.6 on the right, 17.2 on the left side. So we're pretty much, might even be able to come down a little bit on that. So everything's looking pretty good now on this. We've got it biased reasonably. We've got no crossover distortion on there. Biased is about 13 watts. And I think that's ready to go back in its case. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to test this for a couple of days, just use it while I'm teaching and things. I've still got I've got a 500 milliamp fuse in it at the moment, and it should have a 630 in it, so I've ordered those. So I'm just going to put it back together, we'll give it a run and then have a listen. And then when those fuses come, I'll just drop it out and stick the fuse in, and the customer can take it home. But that's all looking good. Right, I've got this Marshall Origin 50 up, and sounding pretty good. Nice shimmer, that sounds pretty nice. Let's check some of that. pretty sweet. They do sound nice, these amps, and to be honest, this 50 watt looks much better made than the 20 does. It just seems to be much more of a durable beast. It's not getting that particularly warm either. I've got this on the high setting and it's pretty nice. Yeah, they're not the worst made amp in the world, these Origins. It's as I say, that I didn't rate the 20 very much, but this is okay. You know, I don't know how much higher it is stand on the road, but let's just see. Let's just see what sort of gain it's got. And again, they don't have a lot of gain, these amps. Setting. I don't really subscribe to the high, mid and low switch though, as I say, it sends the effective load resistance miles out, which means the impedance of the speaker doesn't match the transformer basically. And that's all the gain you get out of it, and to be honest, that's quite nice. It makes a refreshing change, not to have something that you wind up and the gain's just, I mean, I love high gain amps, and there's nothing like doing a bit of shredding, but this is just a change. That's not bad at all. Not sure what that is. That's the bass. Not bad. So that'll do it for this one, I think. We've just had a bit of a blast on that. So thanks for watching. You all take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye for now.